Yeah, my name is John Koch. I'm a news correspondent of broadcast and photography. Kind of interesting how I got started. It's been shown to me throughout my life. I just didn't realize it until you never know you're in the airplane until you're sitting in the pilot seat.
Sure.
So, that type of thing. I've done it 52 years and it's been a good career.
The first question that I like to ask everybody, there's obviously some very specific things I want to get into with you and talk about your career. But I do like to ask everybody what their relationship, and this may seem like a crazy question to ask you, but what your relationship with death is like. More specific to yourself. Is it something you worry about? Do you think about it a lot? I'm just always so curious, you know, some people obviously death makes them very uncomfortable. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't like to speak about it at all. And
No,
you've made death a large part of your career.
yeah, you're true. What I am afraid of, and what any human form or any animal for that matter is the pain and the transition. That doesn't have to be, but it is something that I don't like to hurt myself. It hurts when I cut my finger or land on my hand. No, that's no fun.
Yeah, yeah.
And then that side, yeah, am I going to be able to be taken care of? Am I going to be able to make those choices? Will be somebody there to make those choices for me, so that I don't have to put up with the pain and the negative ends. If that is my destiny, well, there's a lot of mythology in that. We could discuss that for hours of individuals who have gone that destiny. I can't choose that, but passing on and becoming, I am, I will always be. And I'm lucky enough to have some understanding and a priori knowledge of that.
You have lived a life where death has been very close. It's a part of what you do. It's a part of the career that you've had. I found you through an article in the New York Times. This was written, I'm not sure when it was written. It was released just a few weeks ago at this point. How has that been? Are people reaching out, or what is the feedback been since that latest article has come out? I know it's not the first, but it's
It's
new
given
and
it's given me an opportunity to discuss what I think is important in today for the planet. It gives me that opportunity, and I'm able to use executions as the bait. And you bit, and several other people have bit, and I
yeah.
managed to pull them in, and I am able to say my piece. For the reporter of the New York Times piece, well, I understand your concern. I'm concerned too, but that's not what the article is about. And I said, no, I understand that too, but I'm going to say these things, and if you've got enough sense, you'll work it in, because it is the concern of others, especially now.
Were they not necessarily comfortable with a lot of the stuff you wanted to discuss?
No, 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 no. Any journalist worth their salt understands the corporatization and the politicization of the media, and how the media is used by governments and those in charge. Right now, it's a corporate type of government. It's based on money, or the symbolic forms of money, trade goods, a Bitcoin. I don't care. I've got this, and I'm going to sell it to you, and I'm going to make double the profit and take advantage of people in the meantime.
Were you happy with how the article turned out?
Yeah, I think I met the woman met me probably somewhere, I'd say from 2008 to maybe 2016. I'm not quite sure, but she
Wow.
attended an execution. When I did my first one in 1989, there was a man there by the name of Ron Word, the Associated Press correspondent, and I was greener than those. Well, you don't have any green leaves outside, but I was really green. Barely had been in the business, what, 10 years, 11 years, and you don't really become seasoned until about 15 to 20.
Hmm.
Uh, a lot of things were still new, and execution was really new to me then, and I was in the big time.
Yeah.
I was a small fish thrown right in there with the in the ocean with the rest of them. And Ron saw potential, took me under his wing, and another person saw potential and started teaching me and showing me things and uh, giving me advantages that maybe other reporters didn't have. And it all, to make a long story short, when he stopped doing executions, he took me aside and says, "Now, John, you've got responsibilities. You're going to be the senior man here. You're going to be the one with the most experience, and there's things you've got to do." And that is when you greet the reporters, "Hello, I'm so and so. These are the rules. Have you read your material? Do you have any questions? Don't waste time with these kind of questions because they're here and here and here. Do this when you go in. Don't do that. This is what you could expect, etc. How can I make your job easier?" And the number one rule of any reporter in this business are the last words, and we're the only ones that are going to hear them, that will be able to take that outside to you, the listener, or you, the reader. And 99 and 9/10% of the time, we're the ones that decide what the last man's words are. And it's all based, it used to be based on 6, 7, 8, or 9 reporters. It was a zoo on the bus, but we got it. But now it's only 2 or 3 of us, and our job is even that much harder. So we have to work together. No sneaky, no, I'm going to get the story, none of that. We are working together as a service to you, the reader or listener. And by the way, for those who are going to be listening to this show, I want to thank you for allowing me to be with you and allowing me into your home or wherever you're listening to this. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well, John, you did mention your first execution was in 1989, and you
Eddie.
you you did you didn't mention who it was, which I think we should probably get into a little bit. When we
Yeah,
spoke
yeah,
earlier, I obviously mentioned this was something I'd love to chat about a little bit. Your first execution was Ted Bundy.
yeah, Ted. Ted decided he was going to, instead of going north to Hamilton County, but even then, there was no way he was going to get from where he was coming from in Lake City and where he went to Tallahassee without crossing my territory, which runs from the Osceola National Forest, just to the other side, to the Osceola River. There's no way he was other than go north of the Okefenokee Swamp or south of the Santa Fe and the Swanee. Well, he was not going to do that, not in the car he had. But anyways, he passed through here in '79, left Kimberly Leach's body in a shallow grave. I broke the story when the sheriff and coroner brought the body out. Had an opportunity to take a picture and didn't, because the sheriff gave me that look, and I knew I should have taken the picture anyways, but I didn't. I had every right to, and years later that paid off. But I broke that story, and I made a vow. I'm going to finish this story, because this is going to turn into something big, and it did.
One of my first questions was, sort of your first feelings and any sort of instincts you had when, you broke this story. What do you remember from that time?
I was just coming into my own, knowing. Do you know the difference between a reporter and a court news correspondent?
I would love for you to tell me.
All right. A reporter is somebody who's got a home. A reporter is someone who's got that is attached to someone or something.
Yeah.
A news correspondent isn't attached to anything, does not have a home, does not have a central location, but feeds everybody. And I was just coming into my own to the extent, and I was beginning to end the work of getting all the nice awards and all that. I was into getting you the story, getting it first, and the rule of thumb, the commandment, stronger than "thou shalt not kill," is my job is to accurately reflect and not interpret. That is the absolute. Once you stop doing that, then you better get the hell out of the business, because you're no longer a correspondent or a reporter.
Hmm.
And I was coming in, and the thrill, man, I've got this story. Let's get on to the next one. Can I say this in 35 seconds, or do I have a minute? How can I get this story and move on to the next piece and be there, hear it, see it, and especially with radio. Why should I say what you said when I could get you to say it? One of
Yeah.
the strongest sound bites I ever had in my career in 52 years was silence, with the person I asked the question to looked at my microphone and walked away. And I just turned the gain on that microphone. And you could hear the footsteps as they walked away, opened the door and closed and shut the door.
What did you ask them?
Are you going to run for state senator?
That was the question, huh?
That was the question. And it was to Jerry Scarborough, clerk of the circuit court, Swanee County.
That's the beauty of audio, right? Is you could just like
That,
you could
you know,
tell this story sometimes with nothing almost.
almost going back to our original thing with Ted Bundy and being a correspondent.
Yeah.
I knew I had a cat by the tail, and I was going to ride this one all the way to the end. And I did for a while because he had to be arraigned in the county of which the crime was committed, and they assessed that yes, Kimberly Leach was brought to Swanee County, was murdered and buried there. So therefore, the crime was committed in Swanee County, not Columbia, which means he had to go to the Swanee County Jail, which means he had to go to the Swanee County Courthouse. And this is my backyard, and I was beginning to have a reasonably positive. I had deputies that would help me out. I had people that began to see that, they didn't like me, but they liked what I did. And I was beginning to move around a little bit, not like another person, Sue Lamb, who was the queen of crime. And even to this day, I give her that credit. I knew I was also going to lose it because they weren't going to try him in Swanee County. They
Mhm.
weren't going to try him anywhere in North Florida. The guy fry him. Let's go out to the oak tree outside where they used to have meetings in Swanee County in Live Oak.
Wow, yeah.
And it went to Orlando, and I lost it. It was out of my territory, and I don't. If I leave my territory, I must have purpose and reason.
Yeah.
I do not have purpose and reason, then it's controlled folly. I stayed in my territory, and I knew it was going to come back to me sooner or later. Then we went through the Orlando trials. We went through the Chi Omega trials. Yes, he was sentenced to death for both murders, but I knew that they were going to kill him for Kimberly, not kill him for the Chi Omega cases, because the Chi Omega cases were too political.
Yeah.
It was in Tallahassee, and you don't know what rock you're going to underturn and overturn and find what's underneath it. So they were going to get her for Kimberly Leach, and knew that they could go through the court system, and they can get a warrant, and they did. And when it came back and that warrant was signed, and I found out about it, and again broke that in Florida Radio Network
Hmm.
FRN, it was going to be mine because I am from the dominant radio station of which the crime was committed, and have one seat out of the 12 that I should be sitting in. I just didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to manipulate that and get the right key to open up the right door. However, I had the attention of some very fine women. One of them was by the name of Kathy Putnam, Florida Radio Network, FRN. Was sympathetic, knew I could do some good work. We had a good cooperation. She got the assignment from Larry Spillman. Kathy said to Larry, says, Larry, I ain't going to go to this thing. I'm not. I just can't do it. But I know this crazy guy in Live Oak that'll go. The gig is you got to broadcasters out of the 12. This is how it comes down. You've got two from the place where the crime was committed, press and radio. You've got reserved seats for UPI and AP, and it was UPI Florida Radio Network that are permanent. So that left eight seats left to be filled. And this is 1989.
Take me through this execution. Obviously, there's a lot going on in between all of this. You're reporting on these stories. You get a seat at the execution. I mean, take me through that day.
I mean, it was a zoo. You had Bundy Burgers. There was a song going on the local radio station. Bye bye, Teddy, goodbye. You're going to fry to the tune of American Pie. There were barbecues going. I mean, the place was just packed. And I went the day before. And even before that, I was working with the state attorney and prosecuted the case at the time. and the assistant state attorney, getting the legal aspect, what's happening to him now and what's going through the courts. They weren't going to say diddly squat about anything that's going on actually with Ted Bundy other than the propaganda. I'll get that elsewhere. But the day before, it was so much of a zoo that I stayed in the hotel room with two TV sets because I felt there was no sense of me going out and getting the stuff because everybody was going to get the same thing at the same time. Why expose yourself to those vibes? Why it's all bullshit. 89, 79, 60. Let's go back 20 years because I was working in intelligence on a brigade level and a battalion, brigade, division. That's the information I was sorting through in the intelligence. It's called S2. Certain facts were not adding up about that war as it pertained to people coming in and out of Fort Hood, Texas. I'm a smart kid, can't keep his mouth shut. I was beginning to realize, well, gee, maybe they weren't telling us. Then we had the two assassinations, Martin Luther King, Robert Kennedy,
Yeah.
and then we had the '68 Democratic Convention, of which I was part of the troops that were called to serve in Chicago. All the stuff that I joined the military and everything, all the garbage that I believed in as a Boy Scout and God bless America and we're going to kill commies for Christ because we're going to save the world was BS. It was all about to make money. It still is today, but even much more so worse.
Yeah.
It's a program in an economy of death. A very appropriate conversation we're having. So, anyways, I'll make a story. We zoom a little faster. I was a part of the anti-war movement.
Okay.
And 72, the COINTEL program was in full force and they were destroying everything they could. The student movement, the anti-war movement, the civil rights movement, the gay movement, the women's movement, they were all being crushed.
Yeah.
Certain ones in the Black Panthers and certain other organizations in the anti-war movement, military end of it, were being destroyed by the white heroin that was being produced by the CIA in Laos and Cambodia during the Vietnam War. Going back to Bundy, all this is swirling through my head, but I have a job to do.
Yeah.
I have a job to tell you what's being done in your name accurately and as short and as succinct and to the point as I possibly can, and go on to the next story and the next story and the next story. And so the first 24 hours, I'm comfortable. I'm in an air conditioned room. I'm watching the two TV sets. I got some radios going. I'm pulling the sound off of the television because the camera is not going to get anything different than and nobody knew this. Maybe it was cheating a little bit, quibbling. I think would be a closer word, but it saves me a lot of bad vibes and collecting that.
It sounds very strategic to me, honestly. I think
Well,
it was the right move.
thank you. I thought so too, and to this day, I wouldn't change anything because I had to be out there by 4 a.m, do the 6 o'clock gig, and we're going around. Cameras are going, they're filming everybody's move, and then we've been taken inside and we're waiting, and we're in this small room. It couldn't be any bigger than maybe 12 by 15, and all of us reporters, and there were 12 of us that day.
Mm-hmm.
And over into the side table, there was this table of coffee and donuts and croissants. And there was a breakfast there, man. And me being ex military, you don't know when you're going to eat. And I really hadn't eaten really well in 24, 30 some odd hours.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting in there, I'm taking advantage of this.
Do you
But
think
no,
a lot of the other reporters maybe didn't have such an appetite, maybe based
I have
on
no
what
idea.
they were about
But
to witness?
yeah, I have no idea, but and I feel comfortable with you, so I can let you have some of this. Then we go into the room. You go down the aisle, you get to Times Square, not Times Square, but Time Square. That's where in the big house where all they come together, and there's the big cage, and then we go down another hall by the mess hall, go outside, get on the vans, go around the corner, and you go to the execution chamber. taken in. You sit down and you have to be quiet for a while. I think we were in there for 2.5 and 3 hours once.
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
long time.
you can't, yeah, you can't talk. All you got to do is listen to the whine of Frederick on the wall.
Why can't you talk?
Oh, that's a no-no. That's not proper decorum. I mean, it's like going to church,
Got it.
and I can dig that. I can understand
Yeah,
that. I
it's
mean,
yeah, I understand. I've never had anyone explain it to me like that.
but it is, for 15 or 20 minutes, okay, half hour to an hour,
Yeah,
all right, that's getting kind of, but anything more than that, people start getting jumpy.
sure.
The curtain goes up. I'm not quite sure if the curtain went up or they came across. But anyways, and they revealed the presence of the execution chamber. And at that time, we were using the electric chair, old Sparky himself, the wooden chair made by the prisoners themselves in the 30s.
Wow. Okay.
I'm facing, so that would be to my right. It would be the center of the room to my right. And then you'd have, I'm not quite sure if that was a witness, but you would have what is known as the team warden. He's the guy that is in charge. He's the director of the show.
Yeah.
Then you have the chair. Then you have the lever, which is suppressed to connect it to the switch to the executioner, which is to my left. And on my left, there was a large open window in which you could see the traditional garbed executioner with the hood. You could actually see a physical being in the window, and there was more physical presence of the whole thing.
Wow.
Ted is brought in with two guards left and right, and he's kind of walking in until he gets to the door and he freezes. He looks at the gallery, and then he looks up at the execution, to which I believe is a woman to this day, based on the eyes, what you could see,
Hmm.
and you look at faces, and to this day I believe it's a woman that pulled the switch on Ted. But then he looked up that, and then he looked over the chair, and then you could see him physically semi-slump, not slump to where he has to be fully assisted, but he at that point you could see the physical, oh shit, it's up. He was he accepted his fate, but it was interesting to the extent, because of him and his attitude, that I saw in the public eye,
Yeah.
which really I hardly saw him when he was brought before the first, because the courtroom was so full of the other ones, and I'm just the local peon. What am I doing in here? That even that circus continued during the execution. I would say, from my observations, you get the jerk, you get a little bit of smoke, and Poppy's dead. It's not like a Trofero or a Pedro Medina, or the last one I saw of Davis. None of that.
Yeah.
They were mostly, wham bam, thank you, man, you're dead.
Yeah.
Uh, and he's gone and taken away. And then it begins to fade after that. I do my job, and again, this is where Ron came in. You had to do everything by landline back then.
Hmm.
You had to file your story by telephone. And Ron came up to me, and I had put a package together. I had been using it for a long time. I had what I called my bird microphone,
Hmm.
because the public bodies, they would put these files up, and they would listen to talk to each other commissioners, and so that the public couldn't hear them, and they were so stupid that they would be talking with a file in front of to their buddy about something, and the voice sound would bounce off the file onto the window and onto my bird microphone.
So you were picking up everything.
I was picking up everything, and I used it a couple of times, and they went nuts.
You're sort of obviously reflecting on this thing that happened. It's your first execution, back in 1989. Do you feel how does the memory feel now compared to how it felt then? Has it changed at all?
Not really. It's just another story.
It obviously, sure. I mean, I guess it's become like this cultural phenomenon, and it is also just, Yeah, it's
That's
it's a
right.
it
It's
work for you.
a phenomenon. And I was a part of that phenomenon. Does that phenomenon affect me? Only as I'm talking to you now. That's why I'm a news correspondent, sir.
Yeah.
I gave you the story of Ted Bundy. He's dead. Okay, what's next?
Well, so you've witnessed over I believe it was I read over 100 executions at this point now.
Let's be accurate.
Please.
100, 105.
105 executions to this
105.
day.
Yeah.
Does the repetition change the experience of witnessing something like that at all?
That's a good question because I've run into some things that I've not, and I guess it's because I've become older. In a physical sense, I'm writing the story, I'm doing the story, and I'm good at it, and I know I'm good at it. And when I'm doing the story, I'm enjoying it, especially when I'm working with sound bites, you know.
Sure.
And I'm doing these executions, and at the end of them, I'm coming down off of an adrenaline high, you know, which I never really experienced before because I'd go down the road, turn on the Grateful Dead, and get that stuff that people growing flower pots under their bed, and never had to, and start processing and moving on to the next story. I use the term, if you hear anything of stories about this, you'll hear my trademark was lawfully executed, was lawfully convicted, was
Yeah.
lawfully condemned. That is where that's where I sign my stuff. And where I am happened in what I call the media massacre of 2000, the total corporatization of your media. And it's now left up to a media that I don't really trust.
There's going to come a time where somebody takes your place in this witness room. Is there something you'd want them to carry with them as they become, the next John of the witness room?
Accurately reflect and not represent. You don't interpret, you accurately reflect. You go in there and don't get caught up in the moralization. Is it right, is it wrong? You're there to observe, you're there to see what happens, to accurately reflect on what happens, so that the person that is reading or listening to you can make up their own mind and join you in dual responsibility in governing our constitutional republic.
Do you feel like that's what's kept you in this very specific line of work, is
Yeah.
making sure that that's represented?
Yes. I mean, that's about all I'm doing now. And even they're getting hard. They're not getting hard because I'm watching a person die or anything.
Hmm.
That's not hard to do. I mean, I've seen some violent stuff in my own life and have had violence put upon me in my life. That's that's a way. That's life.
Sure.
What's hard to do it is you do it over and over and over and over and over again, with people expecting the same results and not getting what they want, so they do it again.
You mentioned, the lack of reporters now that are
Yeah,
present in these
yeah.
witness rooms. It's down to maybe one or two people.
No,
Uh,
no, it hasn't gotten that far yet. I know there will be me in the AP. If we're lucky, we'll get somebody from where the crime was committed. But it could come down to me in the AP.
yeah.
And that then you're only relying on two people when you really should have, I think, four or five of us in there. What is happening is that the people's attention is being drawn elsewhere,
Hmm.
and certain people who want to see certain things use this as leverage of justice and serving justice. And when you're dealing in this physical existence, that is when the duality becomes important, because the existence that you are and we are now cannot exist without the duality. But it isn't the duality that is important, but the whole of which the duality is contained. With that, is there anything else I can't do for you?
I
Because
I think you
if
did
you
it.
don't go away, I will have to taunt you for a second time.
No, I think we did it, John. I really appreciate you taking the time and talking with me. I really very much appreciate the work that you've been doing and I hope you get to do it for, another 100 years.
I would like to know if you've gotten any reaction. Let's keep talking to each other. Let's reach out. Pass me on to some of your other victims. I mean suckers. I mean colleagues. Let's get out there. For
Yeah, of
me to
course.
do this on my own is something I don't think I really can do.
Yeah,
However, if you invite me to do it, that's a different thing. And
sure.
I think that's the biggest reason why I don't write my book. There's rules to what I'm doing. There are cosmic rules that have been laid down for longer than forever. That I can. It's called Wu Wei, and Wu Wei is a term to do without doing, to act without action, to be independent, not involved with single things or affairs, and link that I do not have to leave my garden gate to influence the ways of heaven. Non-action. And if I take action, then nothing will get done. Does that make it? That's about as Taoist as I could get for you, buddy. And I believe in it. It's a powerful machine,
Yeah.
and it just that's the way it is. So get me more stuff. Send me something if you feel it, and thank you for
Y-
the opportunity, and thank you for your listeners listening to me and allowing me wherever you happen to be listeners. God bless you.